Beautiful. We have the about page, we have the beginning of the homepage, and of course, next thing what we have in the homepage are the products. And this is where I would want to spend a few minutes talking about the general setup. So if you go to a utils, so we're looking for the source folder, and then we're looking for utils, you'll find two URLs. One is going to be for all the products, and the second one is going to be for the single product. So what's happening over here? Well, essentially, I set up the API so we can consume it for this project, and you can either do the shift or I'm sorry, I guess the command and click, and then you'll navigate. But what's going to happen? You'll do that on a small screen if you have the same setup as me. So what I'm going to do instead is just copy and paste this URL, and you'll see that once you open it up, remember the browser was performing a GET request, and we'll just get a bunch of projects, or I'm sorry, products. And like I was saying, I constructed this API, and the way it works is we have the array, and each and every product is an object. And in that object, it has the ID property, and then all the properties as far as the product are within the fields. And even though I was setting up the API myself, I purposely made it more difficult where essentially you have nested properties. Because in a real world, that's how it is. It is very unlikely that you'll have the API that, for example, returns that object and everything is just nicely structured, where we have the ID and then all the rest of the properties side by side. No, usually the way it works, you have this nested object or nested array setup where you will have to do a little bit of work to get that info out. So just to reiterate, this was done on purpose because I think that just gives you a good idea how it's going to be in a real world when you're consuming the API. Now, what we're also seeing in the utils is the single product. So what's happening over here? Now, that's also something that I did on purpose, where usually the setup is following, where when you're fetching for a list of items, yeah, of course, you get these items. But then if you would want to have more info from that specific item, what you're looking for is some kind of unique identifier, in most cases ID, and then you're getting that info. Now, in this case, that more info is just going to be a description. So, for example, notice here I have a list of items, correct? But then once I click on this icon, on the search icon, we will open up a single page. Now, what is a single page? That is the single product page, where I still have info about the product, pretty much the same info that I'm getting when I'm fetching all the products. However, in this case, I'm also getting a description. So again, by design, I just place a description in a separate URL. Now, I could have placed a lot more, but this was just my setup where I just placed a description over here, just so you get a real taste. Where again, when you're fetching a bunch of items, yeah, you'll get some info, but most likely there's going to be some unique identifier that is going to allow you to fetch info about that one specific product, item, or whatever. And the URL for that one is this one. So we have HTTPS and then course API. And then I didn't add anything over here. Maybe by the time you're watching this, you already will have it. But let me just showcase how you would perform that request. So again, we'll navigate back. We'll open up a new tab. And once we go here, it's going to say no such product exists. So what's happening over here? Well, we'll have to add that unique identifier. And the way we'll do that, and by the way, let me, or you know what, not over here. I'm going to zoom in like this. What we're looking for is we would want to add a query parameter. And in this case, I'm going to be looking for this ID. So I'll just copy. Again, maybe by the time you're watching this, you'll already have the whole query parameter set up. We'll see what I decide. But what you would want to do if you don't have it is to have a question mark over here, and then we go with ID, and then equals, and then copy and paste. So don't copy and paste the quotation marks, just the ID. And now you'll notice that I'm getting this more specific info about this single product. And more specifically, in this case, you have this extra description that is not in a list of items because I have the company, colors, and everything else, but I don't have the description. So the way it's going to work, once we navigate to a single product, we'll perform another fetch request where I'm just getting data about this specific product. That's going to be our setup. So we have one URL for all the products. And by the way, I think at the moment, as I'm recording, I have 9, but most likely by the time you're watching this, there's going to be more products. So don't get confused. The whole idea is that as I'm recording the project, I'm also just keep on adding the products because I think it's just going to make it interesting later when we set up the filter, because this is just going to allow us to filter more products. Hopefully this is clear. We have 2 URLs, one for all the products, then one for single product. We should be already very comfortable with performing fetch requests. We've done that quite a few times, and they are here in the utils as variables. And you know what? Actually made up my mind. So what I'm going to do right now is just copy that. So by the time you're watching this, you'll probably already have that. So you'll have the ID and then just copy and paste. And by the way, I added extra ID. So now, of course, if you grab this whole thing and if you copy and paste, you'll have right away this product. However, keep in mind that if product won't be there, then of course we'll have this error. We'll say, sorry, no such product exists. And I purposely added there because we'll take a look at how we can manage errors in a fetch request. So we have product, we have single product, and now, of course, we're ready to set up our index HTML where I would want to display the featured product.